What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news, keep you up to date, and keep you informed with everything that the government does, or at least that's what we try to do, right? We try to keep the people informed because the government's constantly making moves, and they make the rules, and we got to play by them rules, so we need to stay up to date on this stuff, right? So, as you may know, today is Sunday. Happy Easter to everybody out there. If you celebrate Easter, if you don't, happy Sunday. You know, it's all good over here. We don't try to discriminate against religion or anything like that, even though I do proclaim to be Christian. I'm conservative, so I do hold those values very dear to myself, as a matter of fact. But I do understand, you know, people have differences of beliefs. So what's up to everybody? How the hell's your day going, by the way? Hope y'all are having a pretty good day today. As you may well know, yeah, it's Easter Sunday. So, by God, it's a slow news day. So we got some stuff to talk about, though. Amazingly, we've got some stuff to talk about. Yeah, there's some stuff that went down Saturday that we need to jump into. Now, this isn't necessarily talking about stuff that the government does all the time, right? Because, yeah, it's a slow news day on government issues, at least. But there was some stuff that happened, and we need to jump into it. Like I said, check this out, y'all. Republicans slam Biden for proclaiming Transgender Day of Visibility on Easter, though it's observed yearly on March 31st. This is right. Now, it has only been a recent thing since, as a matter of fact, 2021, that the president has came out and claimed, you know, a Transgender Day of Visibility. However, you know, the Transgender Day of Visibility has been around since like 2009, I believe, something like that. But we need to talk about this transgenderism because it's a very, very large topic right now. And it's been a large topic for a little bit. And there are some insane people pushing some of this stuff. And we need to kind of clear the room, I guess you could say. Get some of this stuff out on the table, get some of it out in the open, and try to dispel any myths, I guess, if you want to call it that. But, you know, once again, I'll read the news and give my opinion, so take that with however you want. Republicans are taking aim at President Joe Biden for proclaiming Easter Sunday as the Transgender Day of Visibility, though the 2 days only coincide this year by chance. That's right, yeah. Yeah, Republicans are just happen to jump on this, which, you know, that's something that kind of pisses me off about Republicans that they do. That's why that's one of the reasons why I'm not a registered Republican. I'm a registered independent. I don't claim the Republican Party. However, I do identify with conservatives, and there are a lot of conservatives that are Republicans. So, for the most part, I do agree with a lot of Republicans, but I do understand that the Republican Party is as corrupt, if not more corrupt, than the Democrat Party. However, the Republican Party, most of the politicians do at least attempt to use logic as their base of thought process on everything. You know what I mean? Democrats, on the other hand, they're progressives. You know what I mean? Most of, like, and I'm talking about politicians. I'm not talking about, like, Democratic voters and citizens and all this other stuff. Just politicians. When I say Democrats and Republicans, most of the time I'm going to refer to those just as the politicians themselves, not as the voter base. Although the voter base on the Democrat side can go way past insane, but we do have some very logical and very sane Democrats out there that just, that's their party and that's what they choose. So you got to respect that at least. But getting back to the topic, I don't like when Republicans do this because it looks bad. It looks really bad. They're trying to get their base riled up over something that we need honest discussion over. We need earnest back and forth, you know, some understanding, a little bit of compromise maybe. But let's keep going. The Transgender Day of Visibility, which was started in 2009 as a day of awareness to celebrate the successes of transgender and gender nonconforming people, is held annually on March 31st. The date of Easter, meanwhile, changes from year to year, and that's correct. But several Republicans seized on Biden's proclamation to attack the president. It's appalling and insulting that Joe Biden's White House formally proclaimed Easter Sunday as Trans Day of Visibility, former President Donald Trump's campaign said in a statement. House Speaker Mike Johnson said the Biden administration has betrayed the central tenet of Easter in a post on X. The American people are taking note. They are taking note, as a matter of fact. Now, like the story says, and I'm going to agree with CNN on this, that March 31st date is the day of transgender visibility. But I'm going to push back as well on that. Is like, okay, why do we have a transgender day of visibility? Can anybody answer that? Like, why isn't there a day of visibility for straight people, right? Like, why are we recognizing a mental disorder as a day of visibility for that? Like, hang on, why are we celebrating this mental disorder and not celebrating paranoid schizophrenia or psychopathy or something like that? Like,
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What is this hyper fixation with transgenderism? That's what I want to know, because it's confusing, but let's keep going with the story, and we're going to dig a little deeper into it. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said in a statement Saturday, as a Christian who celebrates Easter with family, President Biden stands for bringing people together and upholding the dignity and freedoms of every American. That's not true. I'm sorry. You can't say that with all the divisive speech that Biden has given out. Now, that can't be true. Sadly, it's unsurprising politicians are seeking to divide and weaken our country with cruel, hateful, and dishonest rhetoric. President Biden will never abuse his faith for political purposes or for profit, Bates said. In this year's presidential proclamation, Biden said the Transgender Day of Visibility honors the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans, which are... That's what I thought. Transgender Americans are part of the fabric of our nation, the proclamation said, adding they deserve and are entitled to the same rights and freedoms as every other American, including the most fundamental freedoms to be their true selves. Now, this is where we start getting into the weeds, right? Like, I've said this before, what rights do trans people and transgender people have that everybody else doesn't have? They most certainly, under the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, freedom to express yourself, have every single right that every single other American does. Now, why would they need or want more rights than everybody else? Why are they being, I guess you could say, greedy as to think they deserve more rights than everybody else? If somebody could answer that for me down in the comments section, that would be great, because maybe I'm overlooking something. You know, I'm a straight white male. According to the left, I'm an evil person, right? Even though I try to love everybody, I try to understand other people's opinions. You know, I argue with people online, of course. You know, sometimes I play devil's advocate and argue for the other side. But that's one thing. I can't play devil's advocate with this one because I don't understand it whatsoever. I mean, I've never thought to be a different gender. I don't fall into the camp of trying to believe a reality that isn't true. You know what I mean? That's the whole basis for gender dysphoria. You believe that you're a different gender, like a man wants to be a woman. That's the most popular one, I guess you could say. But you can't believe in the delusion, right? Because the thing that gets me, right? Okay, I'm going to say this outright right now. Any adult that wants to go ahead and go do that, you know, you need to know what you're getting into here. And most adults have rational brains and they can think this stuff through. But as children, that's where I'm going to come into this, because most children don't have the right to think for themselves. That's what their parents are for. That's why they can't vote until they're adults. They can't smoke cigarettes until they're adults. They can't drink alcohol until they're adults. They can't go into casinos and gamble until they're adults, because their brains aren't fully developed right. And you've got a lot of insane people, I'll be honest, parents that their kid comes out as wanting to be trans, right? They're wanting to be a different gender than what they actually are. Well, okay, hang on. Instead of just immediately affirming their delusion, why don't we sit back and see exactly what they're confused on? Because it blows my freaking mind. If you look at the statistics, right? The statistics are kind of wide known. LGBTQ people in general have a much higher suicide rate than everybody else. Bottom line. Okay, so it's like at what, 45%, something like that. Now, immediately as a parent, if your kid comes out and says they're LGBTQ, whatever, all right, that should set off alarm bells right off, because now they're being placed in a camp where they are much more likely to commit suicide at 45%. That is almost half. That is almost a 50-50 chance your kid will try to commit suicide. That's attempted suicides. That's not successful suicides, by the way. Now, that right off is horrifying to me. I don't want my kid to kill themselves. I want to do everything I can to help save my kid from that. That's why I don't understand these parents that are quick to just jump on the affirmation bandwagon, and why they are so against these laws that are coming out against gender quote-unquote affirming care, which is the total wrong language. When you hear gender affirming care, well, okay, we know what that means, but what that actually means, if you take its actual context out and just take that word right there, gender affirming care, that's pointless. It's completely pointless, right? Like, your kid comes to you, gender affirming care, okay, you're a boy, so I'm going to affirm that and say you're a boy. What? Yeah, so it's gender delusion care, in other words, is what they're doing, because the kid comes out confused, thinking they're a different gender than what they are. What we need to do is we need to drill into them what they actually are, right? You don't have to claim to be a totally different gender to freely express yourself. We need to get that across to people, both Democrat and Republican, on both sides of the aisle. Look, you can express yourself however the hell you want to, but you are not permitted as a boy to go in a girl's bathroom. And that's some of the quote-unquote rights that they claim to not have. Well, what gives you the right as a boy to go in the girl's bathroom? There is no such right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this as a totally logical standpoint, right? Like, putting men in women's sports is dangerous. We know the statistics. We've seen the horrifying videos of some of these girls getting smashed, kicked in the face, broken bones, all that stuff, because you went ahead and you affirmed a delusion of a child and put them on a girl's team when they're a boy, where their muscle density is thicker, they have bigger bone structure, they're stronger, they're faster. Doing all this, you're putting other girls in danger. There's been a huge uproar over this. I'm sure you all know. This, to me, is just crazy, y'all. And we need to tone this subject for sure down, because now we're putting children into the mix with this, and they're seeing what's going on. They're seeing adults going crazy. It's only adding to their own confusion. We need to calm down, figure out a way to navigate this, because this has gotten completely out of control. Let's keep going with the story. While touting his administration's work to advance transgender rights, such as lifting the transgender military ban, the president slammed Republican-led efforts to curb protections for trans Americans, describing them as bullying and discrimination. Biden issued the first ever presidential proclamation of its kind in recognition of the Transgender Day of Visibility in 2021, and has since issued a proclamation every single year. So that's kind of why I'm, I guess, clapping back at Republicans for this, because, you know, he's been doing this for the past couple of years, and just because this day falls on Easter Sunday doesn't mean that he's betrayed anybody. I mean, come on now. Y'all can find a much better attack. If you want to attack Biden on something, you can find a much better attack than this line of attack. This line of attack doesn't make sense at all. Even to me, I try to use logic with everything I do, and logically, this doesn't make any sense, especially if you know that Biden has done this every year since 2021, which is really only 3 years. But still, we need to calm down with this whole transgenderism stuff and think this through rationally like adults. The national debate over transgender rights has grown increasingly contentious, with Republican lawmakers at the state and federal level calling for a range of stringent laws, including restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors and excluding trans women from competing in sports teams that align with their gender identity. Yes, because as they say, gender is a social construct, right? Sports is not a social construct. It's a physical activity. And you are now putting men on women's sports and vice versa, adding to the risk of people getting hurt. Yes, a lot of lawmakers come at this logically, I believe, on this one and say, no, this is not a good idea. We don't need to be doing this. For one thing, the safety factor involved here, that's the biggest factor in my opinion, but you're mixing genders, right? Like with Leah Thomas, that whole situation, and I forget the girl's name right off. I'm sorry, you guys, but Riley Gaines. That's it, Riley Gaines. Sorry, was come out and started talking about the Leah Thomas Riley Gaines thing, and to me it looked like Leah Thomas, or whatever the hell his name is, just came out as transgender just to be better at sports, because now he's competing against women, and he went from like 300th ranked in college to now he's getting medals or whatever. That just looks bad on folks. It looks bad on the whole transgender ideology as a whole, because like I said, it looks bad, but I just really don't think it's a good idea to put men on women's sports and vice versa. It just doesn't make any sense given the biology backing that line of thinking, right? I mean, I've seen the statistics, and the statistics don't stack up good for gender ideology. Now, a lot of people claim, oh, well, you're not letting them be themselves. No, you can express yourself however the hell you want to. There's nobody stopping you from doing that. You're a man, you have male genitalia. Compete with the males. Sorry, you can still be a quote-unquote trans woman and compete with the males if you still have those body parts. That's all I'm saying. If you've gone through puberty, sorry, it's too late at that point. That's why I know a lot of these people, they want to put puberty blockers. Well, hang on. Now, not only are you placing your child into a box where there's a much higher suicidal rate, but now you're about to sterilize your child. Hang on. Think about that for a second before you do that, right? What if this whole transgenderism thing for your kid is just a phase? What if they're just confused for a little while on what they want to be? Now you're irreparably damaging your child's ability to reproduce. These are long-term thoughts that we all need to be taking into our thought process, working all this stuff out. These people that just jump on this, let's just affirm their gender ban. Yeah, that's not a good idea. But, with this whole situation, I try to be as understanding as possible. That's why I'm looking for feedback in the comment section. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Give me some good arguments for the other side, why we should affirm their gender, as children, in other words. Why should we do that? What is a good reason to do that? Because, as far as I know, and as far as clinicians go, I've listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson on this one, and he's a smart guy, and I'm going to take his word for it. There haven't been long-term studies on this. We do know the desistance rates are 65 to 95% in some cases, which, if you don't know what the desistance rate means, that means if your kid comes out and says they want to be trans and you do nothing whatsoever, that 65 to 90% of them will just go back to being a normal child, right? As opposed to actually affirming their delusion and affirming their quote-unquote gender ideology, you're putting them in a box where they're now a lot more likely to commit suicide. That doesn't make any sense. But like I said, if you have a better logical argument, let me know down in the comments. That's all I got for this one, you guys. I want to thank everybody for watching, And I really do appreciate it. And y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.